Hey there, and welcome to this edition of the Q&A. Once again, we are looking through your questions that have come through on Instagram. I'm going to talk through these live, one take. This is how it is. So whatever flows from my mouth, whether it be ums and ahs or fucks and shits, this is just how it comes. Now, I'm going to go through all of these people, call out their names. If you're watching on the YouTube video, you'll see the questions pop up on the screen. Apologies if I pronounce any of these names incorrectly. Sorry, but sometimes the handles that people have on Instagram are very hard for this Englishman to pronounce and understand. So I apologize in advance. No intent to offend any of you. And here we go with the first unintentional offensive use of someone's name. Jackie Wank. I don't know if it's Jackie Wanker, Vanker, or Wanky, but it's Jackie Wank. So I'm just running with it. I'm glossing over the name. I'm jumping straight into the question. So the question is around CBD oil. So CBD oil and training, cannabis use and fitness, negatives versus benefits. Now, okay, CBD oil, for those that aren't aware, is something that's become very, very popular in the last few, I say months, years, whatever. And it's a derivative of something that comes from the cannabis plant. Now, I would say I'm not a 100% expert on this topic. Now, I will put up a couple of links either in the show notes to the podcast or on the screen in the video to some articles by Mike Matthews from Muscle for Life and Miguel Blakut as well. And they're basically very, very well researched articles in this particular field, which I claim I am not an expert. However, the summary of what these guys are saying is effectively that there is not enough research to show that there is any real positive benefit, both for health and performance or fat loss or anything like that, any whatever claims are being made, for us to draw those conclusions and make those assertions. So I think it would be a case of saying that at this stage, probably it's not, there's no evidence to say it's going to do anything for you, no benefit for you, either in terms of some of the claims are around reduced anxiety, reduced pain, and all these various different sorts of things. Some of the research is done in rats, which, if you're aware of any sort of animal-based studies like that, that rarely translates to humans. And again, so you have to treat those results with a degree of caution. Again, you can see results in research from animals on artificial sweeteners, which you can't draw the same conclusions for humans. And at this stage, with such a lack of research into these products, therefore you can't really draw huge conclusions from them. And there's also no real long-term studies, so you can't really assess the long-term health benefits or negative effects even of CBD oil. So my advice for you at the moment is, if you really want to dig into that, maybe you kind of like the idea of CBD oil and what it could do for you, you've heard lots about it, you want to dig into that, I would check out those two articles to go into it in a bit more detail. But for me, right here, right now, I'm never going to recommend it to a client. I'm never going to recommend it to anybody as any form of helping you achieve a health goal or a fitness goal or anything like that. I just don't think it's worth it. In terms of cannabis use itself, I guess that I can't see it how being any good for performance. And if you're always getting the fucking munchies after smoking some weed, I can't see how that's going to help you in a calorie deficit either. So for me, it's a no on both fronts, both from a CBD oil research point of view for health and all those sorts of things. It just doesn't stack up right now. Maybe it does in the future. I think we've always got to be open to change and not go into things with pure bias. But for me right now, what I'm seeing, what I'm reading is that you can't really draw positive conclusions from this sort of stuff. And also, if you're worried about it being, the same effects as cannabis, it's just not the case. It's made a completely different way. So that's my view on CBD oil. Jackie Wank, I don't know. Sorry, I really don't mean to offend you. But that's what it says. That's what it says. You can see it. It says it. Okay. Next question is from Edamame, spelled with lots of M's and lots of I's. So I don't know what that is, if that's Edamame or edamame, like the beans. I don't know. Please, could someone called like Dave Smith or Sarah Jones or something very easy for me to pronounce ask a question next time? That would be most helpful. So question is related to nutrition labels. So when reading nutrition labels, is it better to look at the calories or the ingredients? Now, my assumption is that this question is coming from someone who maybe wants to drop a little bit of body fat, get their weight under control, and therefore is looking at a calorie deficit. So in that situation, absolutely 100%, you should be looking at the calories on the back of the packet. The notion that people say, or I've heard people say on Instagram and things like that, that if you can't pronounce the ingredients, then you shouldn't have it. That's absolute fucking bollocks. Now, I've seen a lot of people's posts on Instagram, and I don't think they can fucking pronounce most words in the English language, let alone ingredients on the back of a packet. So my advice is to don't listen to that sort of moronic advice. Personally, yes, if you're looking for getting calories under control, calorie deficit, all of that sort of good stuff, then absolutely focus on the calories on the back of the packet. You may want to look at, if you're particularly sensitive to sugar alcohols giving you bloating and things like that, then you might want to look at the back of the packet to look for those types of ingredients. And an easy way to kind of identify most sugar alcohols and things like that is if it ends in ol at the end, then it's a high likelihood it could be a sugar alcohol, and therefore it might cause you some bloating if you're susceptible to that. So you might want to look at that. Obviously, if you've got any allergies, definitely you want to be looking at ingredients and things like that. That just makes common sense. But if from a pure point of view of trying to keep things under control in terms of calories, then focus on the calorie number first. You might want to then take that a step further. Let's say that you've got calories well under control, you understand calorie deficit, you're making progress, all that sort of good stuff. And then you want to start to say, well, right, okay, I'm going to take my nutrition to the next level. I'm going to look at more higher quality of foods to get more micronutrients, more vitamins, more minerals to optimize my diet. You then might say, well, okay, I'm going to look at the back of this packet and look for processed ingredients. So I'm going to try and reduce those. That might be a good thing. If it's got lots of refined added sugar in it, you might want to reduce that as well. That just makes logical sense to have more whole foods of that nature in your diet than other types of foods. That makes more sense to have the balance positively in that direction. But again, if you're just really, really basic to this, coming at it from a completely newbie kind of standpoint, then absolutely focus on calories first, then start to incrementally work on your nutrition, work on optimizing your nutrition over time as you get the basics in place. That's always would be my advice. Again, another sort of nuance on that would be if you are experiencing issues of hunger. So if you're someone who is constantly feeling hungry when you're in a calorie deficit, you're struggling to achieve that calorie deficit because consistently you're feeling hungry, that's then leading you to overeat because you're binge eating and that sort of scenario, then again, you might want to look at the ingredients on the packet. If it is a lot of processed ingredients, again, not inherently going to cause you too much harm or anything like that in relatively adequate quantities, but it could be a situation where those types of ingredients might not necessarily be the ones in those types of foods that help keep you full, not helping you keep fuller for longer and then keeping those hunger feelings at bay. So again, it could be just from that point of view that you look at the label for that type of thing. Obviously, you can get into real kind of different levels of detail. So if you're trying to reduce your salt intake because maybe you want to look at it, you've got a very high salt intake, you want to reduce that, then yes, you're going to look at ingredients. So often, as with lots of things, it really depends on the person, the situation, the goal, the circumstance. But overall, as your overarching thing is probably you're going to want to focus on calories first and foremost, help get your diet in check, and then let everything else flow from there, and then introduce complexity once you have got each stage of the process in place, if that makes sense. So next question comes from It's the FCWM. no idea what that means whatsoever. I'm not down with the kids, so if that is some sort of weird acronym for something, then I confess I do not understand it. Anyway, question. Can you talk about different body types, endomorph, ectomorph, mesomorph, etc.? Yes, I absolutely can. Don't make any difference for losing weight or gaining muscle. Doesn't really make any difference. All of the same principles apply in the sense that whether you're endomorph, ectomorph, mesomorph, whatever, is the principle of a calorie deficit to lose weight, lose body fat still applies. The principle of a calorie surplus to optimize building muscle still applies. If you're the type of person that you go through one of these online calculators and you get your calorie deficit number, you stick to that religiously, but you can't lose weight. Now, the situation there is if you're absolutely 100% adherent, you're not lying, you're not talking bullshit when you said that, definitely didn't have those 3 tubs of ice cream last week. Definitely, they just magically disappeared. Okay, if you're honest with yourself and say, yes, absolutely nailed that calorie deficit, and over a, say, 1 to 2 week period, your weight didn't shift, then it's highly likely, in fact, it's definite that you're not in a calorie deficit. Therefore, you would just need to increase that deficit until a point at which you would start losing weight. That necessitates where your deficit is. And it could be that, if you're one of these body types that drops body fat really quickly, then cool, you don't have to do anything. You've got your calorie deficit right. If you're not dropping body fat, then your calorie deficit is probably wrong. Or the other situation is that you are unknowingly non-adherent. So that is another scenario whereby you think you're tracking everything correctly, you're doing all the activity you said you would, but the weight and the body fat isn't moving. But you could be unknowingly non-adherent. That be, you could say, for example, not know that there are X amount of calories in something, or you didn't realize that you misjudged something when you were calculating. So you think, absolutely, I'm on track, I'm doing everything fucking right. But unknowingly is you didn't realize you were, say, for example, tracking it incorrectly. Something like that. That's being unknowingly non-adherent. That can also be a factor. But given all of that, it's still the same principles still apply. These diets and things and programs that people will try and sell you, particularly on Instagram and all those social media outlets, will be, if you're an endomorph, then you need this type of training program and you need this type of nutrition. You need to avoid these fucking foods. It's all bollocks. It just doesn't make any difference whatsoever. A mesomorph should not avoid carbs if that's what they're telling you. A mesomorph doesn't need to go for this type of training versus that type of training. It just doesn't make the difference that they are saying. It sounds good, it sounds sexy, it sounds like something that should work, it sounds like something that's plausible, but it just isn't. And that's just the hard facts. Now, the sad situation is that people make probably tens, hundreds of thousands of pounds and dollars selling these bullshit programs. Now, at the end of the day, if you just did a decent weight training program, worked hard in the gym, and you stuck to a calorie deficit or calorie surplus, depending on what your goal is, you would get the same results. Probably, if not better, because you wouldn't be pissing about, worrying about whether you should be eating a fucking carb or a slightly extra bit of protein. It just doesn't really matter at the end of the day. So I would say ignore those sorts of things. And even before all of that, the actual principle of these soma types when they were originally developed was like a personality trait, not necessarily anything to do with the like nutrition and training or anything like that. It's one of those things that has been taken, morphed, basically thrown into some sort of fucking shitty marketing machine, scrunched around, and then bullshit has been popped out the back end as what usually happens. So let's pop the bullshit back in the arse and then fucking shoot it off somewhere else. So the next question is from Tina Tao 666, the devil. Now I know Tina, so this the 666 part of Tina's name is absolutely valid. So The question is, why are you wearing a hat inside? Now, it just so happens to be that while I'm recording this, I am also wearing a hat inside, not just when I put that post out on Instagram. Now, the reason why I wear a hat, I'm going to take this question super seriously. The reason why I'm wearing a hat is because Operation Thor is in progress. Operation Thor. So back in February 2018, I said to myself that I'm going to grow some fucking long hair, because I used to have long hair when I was in a band. Yes, I was in a band. 2006 to 2008 or 9, heavy metal band. I was playing guitar, screaming into a microphone, swearing. So kind of nothing's changed in the last 10, 11 years. And I had long hair to like shoulder length. And then I went and got a proper job. Oh, I say proper job. I went and got a corporate job in an office. And my manager at the time said, if you want to make it in your career, climb the corporate ladder, you need to cut that fucking hair off. So I proceeded over the next like 2 days, I kind of thinking about it, whatever. Then I just freaking shaved the whole thing off. Like number one, the whole lot came off. Done. But ever since then, I've always liked long hair. I think that's kind of the heavy metal roots, long hair, beard, that's the kind of thing. So February 2018, I said Operation Thor is happening. Growing the hair, the blonde locks are coming. So pretty much I'm in that stage of I cannot be fucked to do my hair at all. And it's in that stage where it kind of you can't do anything with it. So yes, it lives under a hat. So if you see me on an Instagram video, on YouTube, Instagram story, wherever it is that you see me, if I'm wearing a hat, that's the fucking reason that I'm wearing a hat. Because also I'm tight as fuck, so I don't put the heating on even though it's the middle of winter and it's fucking cold in here. So that's the reason why. Anyway, so that wraps up our 4 questions that we're going to go through on this edition of the Q&A. Hope you found it useful, even the slightly random one about hats. So I will speak to you on the next episode. Hope you enjoyed this. If you did, let me know, and also please get in touch and submit your own questions to me, and I will happily answer them on the next episode of the Q&A. And just one thing before you go, don't forget that if you go to iamparadisefitness.com/free-training-program, spelt the English way, then you will be able to download a free 4-week version of my Total Body Blueprint program for free. And then on top of that, I'm going to send you some guides on calculating your calories and macros, overcoming cravings, living leaner at work, and recipe packs and a bunch of other different stuff for free. So if you're watching on YouTube, there'll be a link in the comment section. If you're listening on a podcast, there'll be a link in the show notes to that. So make sure you go check out that. Make sure you come and visit me on Instagram as well, at iron_paradise_fitness. Come say hi, say you watch the podcast, say you watch the YouTube videos, say that you love me, whatever it is that you want to say, and I will say hi back. So hope you enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you on the next one.